Mr. Gagnon. It is 7:03 on Monday, April 18th. We're getting rapidly near the end of the year. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence, please. Thanks very much. I need a motion to approve the April 4/11 minutes of our board meeting. Is there a second? By Suzanne. Motion by Diane. Any observations, concerns, changes, amendments, misspellings? Somebody who is here but not recorded, somebody who is recorded but not here? I'm giving everybody who is having a quick look the opportunity to point out any errors. Seeing none. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented? Opposed? Abstentions? Jimmy abstains. The March 5/11 deliberative session minutes. Really? February 5?
March 5, I mean, deliberative was February 5th.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, so we
thanks, guys. I just read what was written, I
Yeah.
apologize.
February
Then I'm looking for a motion on the February 5th deliberative session minutes. Make the motion. And the motion is to what?
I assume that the copy now took out the typos and everything.
I don't have them, so I
I
can't tell you.
I still see just some tweaks, like with the Dreamkeeper Award and the Cornerstone Award, we just, the way we need to jump, Leo LeBrack up to Dreamkeeper, because he got the Dreamkeeper Award, he's under Cornerstone. We just need to make those adjustments.
If you want, I'll look at them prior to your next meeting and come back with
When I
what
approved them, I didn't
changes.
see that, so good
Yeah,
catch.
I caught the.
Neither did I, Keith.
Yeah, Frank didn't either, yeah, because we both went through it, so.
Okay, if you want, we can put them back on the agenda for the next meeting.
Is that the only substantial change?
That's all, it's substantially right, yeah.
Okay. Can we make a motion to approve them with that change being completed?
That motion, that, yes.
And that will at least get us, get it off the table?
As amended.
And would you second that?
I'd like to correct one more name on page 9. You have Melissa Winrow, and it is Alyssa, Lissa.
We should know that.
Mm-hmm.
We should.
She's the Goffstown School District Treasurer.
Okay.
And any other ones that are found while you're doing,
And
Just the name corrections.
we won't necessarily account for spelling errors. We'll assume that anybody who ever reads the document at some point in the future will hopefully recognize. Because I don't imagine everybody here necessarily knows everybody who spoke, so. Having said that, if there are no other changes, all in favor of approving as per the motion? Opposed? Abstentions? Kent and Suzanne are abstaining. The rest in favor. I'm going to pass around the correspondence folder. There are two pieces that are typical items, which are substitute reports. The more important document in here is a thank you to Ace Hardware for its donation of materials and supplies which we're going to be using in our life skills program. Thank you very much, and would the district be so kind as to also offer enough from the board as well? Commendations and good news.
I have some good news from the high school. The boys baseball team had their season opener last week and they won 11-2. So that was a big win. Also, the Penny Slam wrapped up last week. I don't have the exact totals, but I think we raised somewhere near $1,500, I think it was, for the cause to end homelessness in New Hampshire, the Coalition to End Homelessness, and also for the Haiti Relief and Japan Relief Funds. We divide the money that we earn for that. Tomorrow, Student Council is visiting the Senior Citizens Home, the county nursing home, for a visit for a few hours, just to reach them and play games and brighten their day. And AP exams are coming up after vacation, so seniors are in their last stretch finally. So we actually have, like, I believe this year, a record number of students taking exams. So that's a lot of studying going on.
And you're smiling when you say that. But you're still taking AP exams anyway. Good for you. Any other good news or commendations?
Our student council at Maple Avenue sponsored a Make-A-Wish project with all donations went to the New Hampshire chapter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. A representative stopped by last week to pick up the check for $1,200. There's a nice picture and more information in Cubby's Corner. Food Service Director Megan Bizzaro and Maple Principal Suzanne Pishka hosted a luncheon called Dining with the Director last week. The executive board of the student council had lunch with these two ladies and discussed nutrition and the school lunch menu. There will be another opportunity for Maple Avenue students to dine with the director and Mrs. Pishka next month.
Abby, Andrew asked that we note that Josh Barrier won first place in 2 local French oratorical contests, one in Allenstown and one in Manchester, and that they were coming back today with their students from Quebec. So as I get more information, I can share that with you as well. And Eric Greenland wanted to commend the Creative Foods class and the Culinary Club for the Eddie Awards food that they created, as well as doing the foods for the Art Awards and the Dreamcatchers this weekend.
Thanks very much.
Mount Middle School is in the middle of their Go Green program for an early celebration of Earth Day. And some of the items that they've been selling compost bins, and they use that money to purchase some things like saplings that the kids are gonna get on Wednesday and take home and be able to plant them when they want.
One more thing that I forgot to mention for Mr. Droscher won the New Hampshire Music Educator of the Year. I'm not sure if anybody had read that in the newspaper. That was great. It was not this past weekend, but the one before at the All-State Awards.
And I understand he had no idea it was coming.
No, he really didn't know at all, so it was a big surprise.
What a great
That
surprise.
explains the fact that he couldn't come up with a speech.
Any other good? Yes.
DI, did we talk about that? The victory for the destination imagination team at Maple. They're going to Globals over, I think it's Memorial Day weekend. It's a team of Maple Ave and Mountain View students who are going. They're going to be competing with teams from all over the world. It's an international competition, like over 1,000 teams, I believe. They are frantically raising the funds. They need to raise about $9,000 for all of them to go down. So they are having, it's DI night at NATO's tomorrow?
Yes.
A portion of the proceeds of sales at NATO's from like noon to 8 are going to go to benefit DI. And they're doing assorted others. 4? Thank you. 4 to 8. The details, that's an important one. And assorted other different fundraising opportunities. But really, I just want to commend the hard work of the coaches and the children. They did a phenomenal job. This is huge. It's wonderful.
Can't imagine anybody in this room has never had a Meadows sub. If you haven't, this would be the best opportunity to have a delicious treat, because they're terrific. Any other good news or commendations? Public comment. Seeing none, let's move on to standing committee reports. Admin and finance.
Okay, I would like to move or present the manifest in an amount of $1,495,708.09.
Second.
The major items are the payroll, taxes and benefits. The payroll itself, $516,353. Payroll taxes, $162,372. And the payroll benefits, associated benefits, $453,480, for a total of $1,132,205. Moving right along, Crotchet Mountain, $43,334. Lighthouse School, $15,165. Seacoast Learning, $9,592. And Safeway Transportation for the special ed, $5,400. Subtotal for that would be $73,491. And regular transportation, vocational, $6,837. And the regular ed back and forth from school, $95,040. Total for the transportation for the regular, $104,877. Those were the major items. And Ray is going to be talking later under new business for the driver's ed program and the after-school program. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Do you have a second? Anybody?
Do you have a second? Any other questions about the manifest? Seeing none. Suzanne? Seeing none, all in favor of the manifest as presented? Opposed?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't put my hand up fast enough.
Thank you.
I was reading ahead on
Abstentions?
some work here.
That was unanimous. Human Resources?
Next meeting's May. We weren't able to get a quorum in our April one.
I'm
So-
sorry. I think I missed you by a few minutes. I'm sorry I wasn't able
Yeah.
to support it.
So pretty much, if we can just, if you're not able to make it for a meeting, just either let me or MC know, and that way we'll be able to make sure we at least have 3.
Planning and Communications?
We didn't meet this week, we'll meet again in 2 weeks, May. The only thing to report, Gary and I actually filmed a show since our last meeting for GTV regarding technology. And I believe that is on the GTV schedule now, is it, Gary? Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Mr. Gagnon escaped.
Yes.
He did. I know we should be looking for it soon, I think, if it's not already.
Anything coming up in the paper?
This week in the paper, we submitted an article on special education. In 2 weeks, we are looking to do an article on what a principal does, a building principal.
Terrific. And your next meeting, the 2nd at 6 p.m.?
Do that?
Ginny, C&E?
Yes, I'm gonna ask
You-
either
you
one of
need-
you
you need to
gentlemen.
get that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Either one of you gentlemen to jump in, because, that was kind of crazy night for me.
Yeah.
Nicole Doherty was in and, talked to us about the new language arts program that Mountain View has been piloting, from September to April. And it was the Pearson program and the Glencoe program. They had recommended or would like to go with their program that they've chosen is the Pearson program, which basically would continue along with the Reading Streets program. So there would be nice continuity in that the kids would go from the lower grades and continue to 7th and 8th with the same program. It's scientifically based. It has spelling and grammar consumables. It does have a tier 1 and a tier 2 level, so that it will accommodate the higher students and the lower students with their program. They did a wonderful job with grant money and negotiations with the two programs, and did get 2 years' worth of books, consumables, and special ed material in this package. So they really did a good job in making that all come together. So would you guys like to add anything to that?
Just a couple of things.
Yeah, please.
For anybody who doesn't know it, who may be listening or is present in the room, Nicole Doherty is the curriculum coordinator at Mountain View. She rolled out, with the assistance of the assistant superintendent, a pilot program of both of the publishers. It went on throughout the year and was piloted by the people who will use the program. At the end, the one thing that everybody wanted, regardless of which program they had in hand, was simply a decision. We can and are happy to work with either one of these programs. The impetus for the Pearson recommendation was, as Ginny said, its connections in terms of language and presentation, both for learner and instructor, with Reading Streets. We already have a well-established program and an understanding of the underpinnings of Reading Streets, so continuing that made a great deal of sense. It's going to be supported and endorsed by the people who are going to use it, who have already used it. One of the other important elements of that is that really is going to require an enormous amount of ongoing energy and focus from the people who are presenting the program. Therefore, that becomes something that's a major element and piece of their professional development plan. So you see that the implementation of this particular program impacts in many positive ways and gives the instructors, gives the faculty something that they're really devoting an enormous amount of energy to as part of their professional development. It's well thought out, it's cost effective. Even when you price it out for the short term, and believe it or not, these are the things that we need to consider. The cost of doing this on a per student basis is less than if we invested in something, now I'm gonna forget the name of those wonderful little mechanical books you can get at Amazon and Kindles, or what's the other one? Nooks.
Tablets.
Yeah, Kindles, Nooks, tablets. So trying to compare investments in terms of resources, it still makes far more sense to use these. And I have to tell you, I've never negotiated across the table from Nicole Doherty, and I'm glad I haven't had to. Because she waited, she was patient, and please, I hope no vendors are listening. And really got some excellent return by simply going, that's interesting. Oh yeah, we might be interested. Sure, we'll get back to you. Which sort of was followed by a phone call about, well, we could do this. So there was a great deal of thought, not only in terms of the business transaction, once a decision was made, but also making sure the plan would work. Keith, what have we done?
I think you got pretty much everything.
Okay. So
we would like to make a recommendation that we accept their recommendation to continue with Pearson and choose that.
by the way, we've already funded this. It exists in the budget. The only question that was left for us to answer was which program? Questions?
I'll make a second to that motion that she made, just for
Thank you. Janine, you already had that, right?
Yep, I got it.
Questions, concerns, thoughts, observations, things that you might want to hear about at some point in the future? It's pretty exciting stuff. There's good energy around it. I'm all in favor of the motion as presented. Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous? Ginny, was there anything else in CNE?
No, I think that basically was our next meeting is, May 9th at 7 at the SAU.
Immediately following Human Resources. I just want to ask, MC, is there anything that we left out that you can pick up? Good? Thanks very much. Elementary facilities renovation. Any status?
I can update them, let's see, we met, 2 weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago at this point. We reviewed the RFPs that we got from the 3 finalists. They came in exceptionally high, higher than we anticipated and higher than we expected. We do have an agenda item requesting the board consider some additional impact fees that we have available to us. It still won't meet what they're asking, but we think they're really high, so it would just give us a little bit more leverage for negotiations, but we can talk about that when we get there. Do superintendent's report?
On to you.
Okay, I did want to let the board know that I spoke with Terry at the Goffstown Truck Center. One of the things they've done to assist New Hampshire districts is they've changed their overall structure. They now will have a manager who oversees just New Hampshire, which should help us get some consistency between truck centers and some consistency for our truck center when we have a problem. I'm not having to call Connecticut. There will now be a contact that will directly, between the regional manager and the local truck center, there's now another level, so we should get some more personalization and some more responses when we have more significant issues. So I did want to let you know that. We have a substitute training tomorrow. We continue to kind of monitor our substitute list and get people in when we can. I did apply for the one-day waiver request for the seniors that the board approved at our last meeting, so I haven't heard back from that, but I don't anticipate a problem. We do meet the hour requirements for that. I did want to, I wanted to just go over AYP results real fast for the board and for anybody who's listening. Unfortunately, we were hoping the high school made AYP, which would keep us off the DINI list, the District in Need of Improvement list, but unfortunately the high school did not make AYP in the area of math for our educationally disabled population. Now I'll flip that to the other side, because one of the things we always talk about is what we didn't make AYP in. What that means, we made AYP for our whole school population, so our students in reading and math are doing well as a whole school. All the other subpopulations, so we have the socioeconomic students, we have Hispanic Latino population, we have the ESOL population, we have the educationally disabled population, I'm probably missing some, and then we have the whole school. So we made all of those others, so the students are doing well. So I always want to put it in perspective, because when we always talk about what we didn't make it in, we forget that as a whole school, we did make it. At Mountain View, we did not make it in reading for the Hispanic Latino population. It's a new category this year. Interestingly, the state changed how we assess those subcategories. So for now, what they do is the first question is asked is, are you Hispanic or Latino? And if you say yes, that's the category you're counted under. If you say no, that's when you then go to the white, African American, all the different categories. So it's interesting how the federal government has requested that we pull that out as a first category, which of course we've now found that we have 16 students identified as that at the middle school, which puts us in, it's the first time we've ever had that category that we've missed. So again, we didn't make it for that category, but we made it for all the rest. At Mountain View, we did not make it in math for the Hispanic and Latino population, as well as the SES population. But again, we made it in everything else. At Maple Ave, we did not make it in reading or math for the educationally disabled population, but we did make it for everything else. So again, whole school-wide, we're still doing well. It's the subcategory that we didn't do well in. And at Bartlett, we did not make it in math for the educationally disabled population, but we made it in reading for everything else. So, for example, at Bartlett, we made it, and we didn't make it last year in reading for the educationally disabled population. This year we did. So it fluctuates a little bit, but I wanted to stress the fact that while we didn't make AYP and we're still a schools in need of improvement and we're still a district in need of improvement, we do have lots of good things going on because the whole schools have made it. It's just the subpopulation. So I just wanted to stress that. Gary has agreed to be your GTV representative, so he attended his first meeting, I think it was last week. And so I'll try to get updates from him, just so you know what's going on with GTV. I'm also meeting with Mark Tessier and Derek Horn from the town tomorrow once a year they go through the SAU office, just look at the building. So we'll be able to show them the improvements we've made there, as well as a review of our contracts. We currently, and I'll bring this back to the next board meeting, Barnard Park, we asked for a 2-year extension, which will be expiring next year. And our GTV contract is up at the end of this year. So I'm going to have a conversation with them about those 2 contracts and where we want to go with them. So I'll bring more information back to the board. I think that was all I had.
Can I ask you a couple of quick questions about AYP? At the high school, we did not make the grade in the area of math for
Educationally disabled.
education. Boy, I was gonna say a different word. Thank you for squaring me away. I can't read my own writing. Is that the same category that we've worked on previously?
Yes,
Okay.
that's our special education population.
Okay. And at Mountain View, the area where we didn't make the grade in AYP was reading for a Hispanic Latino population.
Correct. And that's a new one.
Do we know how large that population is?
I believe we had 16 students. Was it 16?
Thanks very much.
So how does it affect it for us still being on the good list?
If you have, to remain a district in need of improvement, they take elementary and middle school together, and then they take high school. So if elementary, middle school are schools in need of improvement, and your high school is a school in need of improvement, it makes you a district in need of improvement.
And what happens if you're on that list? Or, like, is there a certain amount of years and something happens?
It depends on the schools. The middle and high school, because we're not Title I, we just have to develop a school in need of improvement plan and a district in need of improvement plan and continue to work on those. We have to give annual progress reports, but there's no sanctions per se. Maple Ave and Bartlett, interestingly, Maple Ave may not be eligible for Title I dollars next year, so they wouldn't be counted. But right now, the sanctions for them are depending on the year, but we have to take so much of our Title I dollars and put it towards professional development by law. We have to provide, this year we've been providing supplemental educational services. So basically we have to allocate so many dollars to the lowest percentage of students, the lowest performing students, and they have the option of contracting with an outside provider to do tutoring services, and we have to pay that through our Title I dollars. So the sanctions go up. David, in his next year, we have to write a corrective action plan now. And so that plan, because he's a Title I school. The other piece you had, we had school choice this year, but because both of our schools are Title I, it wouldn't make sense to have a school choice. Like, somebody from Bartlett could go to Maple, but next year, if Maple isn't a Title I school, there is school option choice. So parents can choose to send their children from Bartlett to Maple Ave. And it's unlimited. We can't tell them no. Which is interesting. The downside of that is they go to Maple Ave, there's no services, because all of those services for Title I are going to now move to Bartlett. So it's an interesting swap. We've been looking at budget and who we have for staffing where, because clearly it doesn't make sense to put 8 people at Bartlett now and nobody at Maple Ave. So we're looking at some of those pieces to the puzzle, but David will need to write a corrective action plan. which is kind of a little bit more of an intensive plan than the school in need of improvement plan. And so we'll be working on that. I think that's due in August.
Ms. Stacy, can you do me a favor and just explain again what qualifies as a school as being Title I?
It's based on your free and reduced lunch numbers.
And
So that's strictly
all
it.
it is?
Yep. Yep. So
And it's
the
a
number.
percentage of
It's
your
a, it's a,
population, or?
yep, it's a
just number?
percentage they take. So how you qualify for it is they take the average throughout the district of your, free and reduced lunch population. So if the high school's 30%, Bartlett's 30%, they average that together, and you have to meet that average or you don't qualify. So Maple Ave is just falling under that number by a couple of percentage points. And so we anticipate, we've been talking with the state about that, and we've been trying to get out there, make sure every kid's identified, but it looks like Maple Ave will not qualify next year based on what we have for preliminary data.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, can I do one thing first?
You sure can.
Okay.
Boss?
No.
He hasn't figured that out yet, I guess.
I serve at the whim of others. We recently got a request, and this is for information. I don't believe that there's any motion that's necessary on it, but it's for your information. Mr. Belleville from the Budget Committee, who's a representative to the school board and attends our meetings regularly, has expressed an interest in coming and visiting the high school. He can do that. He said he can do that in the first week of May. We're going to make arrangements to do that, and he's going to let us know some of the things that he really wants to make sure he gets to see during that day, and then we'll figure out how he gets to spend the rest of his day, and the superintendent's going to, we'll ask her to get in touch with you to work out which day will work best for you, and coordinate it with the people here in the building who will make themselves available to you. All right? Unless there are any questions. I don't think I need a motion unless you tell me I
Can
do.
you clarify something? Is he going as an individual or as at the request of the budget committee?
I have not gotten an answer to that question specifically. Mr. Belleville and I had the opportunity to talk. He would like sort of something that represents a general tour. He said that he would identify at least some things that he wants to make sure that he doesn't miss, and we'll work through to make sure that those things occur.
So my question is always, he doing this at the request of the budget committee or as an individual, his own request?
Mr. Belleville, if you'd like to try to answer that, I would be happy for you to do so.
There's no request of the budget committee,
Okay,
and I'm a member of the budget committee.
I know that.
It's
just-
something I cooked up.
Okay, it's an individual request, that's all.
I think that's probably the fairest way to characterize it. So if nobody says I need anything from the board, then we're gonna go ahead and do that. Old business.
Board retreat.
Yeah.
I've gotten
So-
a couple responses back for May 14th, not everybody.
Is-
I'm not doing it by myself.
Yeah, okay. It's gonna be May 14th. Is there anybody who is unavailable that day?
I'm at another meeting in Jackson.
You are. How is it that they're more important than the rest of us?
Hmm.
No, and you don't, never mind, I apologize, that was unfair. Okay.
They asked
Um,
first.
Here's what will make sure that happens. At a minimum, if there are things that you'd like to contribute going in, let's make sure that we capture those, and we'll
Okay.
make sure that we get something back to you
Good.
as well.
Would you want to try the next week and see if everybody can attend?
I think I got some responses that were a negative. And it was more
Memorial Day
than one.
weekend.
Yeah, how about Memorial Day weekend?
Not in town.
Okay.
But everybody else can do the 14th, the board members.
I'll travel back.
What's the location?
The SAU. And I'll get an agenda well before that. So if there's anything specific people want to work on, but Philip and I have been talking and some general topics.
Do we have a facilitator?
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
We will have a facilitator.
Okay. Okay, we're working on that.
We're working on
Yeah,
the
I've made a
who
contact.
as opposed to whether or not.
Okay.
And when we looked at the fact that we're using resources to do this, I apologize for making a unilateral decision, but we're gonna do it at the SAU, and we'll try to figure out a way to make the best of that space, even though we've all been in it 100 times. Oh, okay, 1,000. Is that an offer?
Everybody wants to drive to the seacoast.
New business.
Okay, our technology plan expires at the end of this year, and so Gary has been working with our technology advisory committee to develop a new plan for the upcoming year, and Gary is here to do a short presentation for the board on kind of where we are with technology, where we're going, and an overview of the plan. You do have I believe you should have had the plan emailed to you for review. We do need a board motion to approve the plan, to send it to the Department of Ed for review and approval by them.
I'm gonna turn down the lights.
Sure. I think that's where they're going. Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
Should we turn the field on?
Why, do we gotta write down something?
Well, no, but we need to film. We
Oh.
got you too,
Yeah.
can they see us?
Can you guys see us? See Gary in the dark?
You see anything on the screen? Okay.
Okay.
Can the TV see?
Oh, the TV. Yeah, now you can.
You good?
Okay, go for it, Gary.
Okay. Stacy told me I had 15 minutes total, so I'm gonna go through some of these slides pretty quickly, and I'm try to take about 10 minutes through this presentation, so there could be some time for questions and answers at the end. And this is basically an abbreviated version of the presentation that Diane and I did for GTV that I think is supposed to start broadcasting this week. So at a glance, in the district right now, we have 1,500 operational computers in a mixed platform environment, meaning that we support both Macs and PCs. We have teacher laptops, kindergarten through 12th grade. The elementary school and kindergarten laptops were refreshed in 2009, and the middle school and high school laptops and administrative laptops were refreshed in 2010. We've got a high-density wireless infrastructure at all of our buildings so that teachers can get on the wireless no matter where they are in the building, and it is working quite well. We've got a total of 14 mobile labs and numerous special purpose fixed labs in our buildings. We've got an adequate number of portable LCD projectors so that teachers can take them out when they need them, and we have quite a number of fixed LCD projectors and smart boards at in various locations, and this is something moving forward we want to continue to build on, because it really is an important part of creating a 21st century learning environment. Some of our web-based initiatives is Power School, which I'll talk a little bit more about a couple slides from here. Moodle, which is our online classroom e-learning environment. We've got Info Center, which is a web-based library catalog system. Success Maker, we've got Reading Streets and Everyday Math, and obviously our website and other services. Our Cisco IP phone system implementation is now complete. It's up and running in all of our buildings. The head end of the system, the brains of the telephone system for the entire district, is right here in this building, and there's now 4-digit dialing between all phones in the district. And all of the phone lines come in through this building now, and there's just a few backup lines in all the other buildings, but normally all calls come and go from here. So whenever somebody at, say, Bartlett or Maple or any other building within the SAU office picks up their phone and gets dial tone, they're getting it from this building. And one of the advantages of doing that is we now have truly one phone system throughout the district, not a whole bunch of small individual phone systems that don't even talk to each other. And one thing that allowed us to do is cut back on some of our lines, because obviously if you've got lines going to every building, you end up with more lines than you need. So we were able to cut back a little bit and save a little bit in the number of lines. Last summer we put in through a anti-bullying project, a network video surveillance system, both here and at the middle school, that you can actually get to some of these cameras through a web browser. So if there was an incident at one of the buildings, Stacy could bring it up from her desk and see what was going on. We have about 24 cameras in both the high school and the middle school in each building, and the cameras are up and down the corridors, looking at exits, and the students know that they're there because we have monitors right up in the front office, and students go to the office, they see the monitors are up there, and the monitors are in plain view. The secretaries can glance up and see what's going on all day long. I think it's been a great thing as far as preventing incidents from happening. It's a type of thing that if something's going on, it can be nipped in the bud, and you can get an administrator, down to that wing, where previous to having these cameras, you wouldn't know about an incident until the incident was over with. It's also obviously used for kind of after the fact, solving of incidents, who did what, who was where, and it's been used quite successfully for that as well. As far as connectivity is concerned, each building has a local area network. We've got a wide area network between our buildings that's used for both voice and data. That's how the phone calls get from each building back to here where the phone system's actually located. We have Comcast cable at all of our schools, which Comcast provides us free internet service, and that's what all of our students use for all of their web searching and research. And because we have individual Comcast accounts at every building, we have a firewall at every building with SIPA-approved content filtering.
Could you explain the synonym SIPA?
But
What is synonym, this,
Acronym.
the acronym, thank you.
SIPA, Child Internet Protection Act.
Okay, thanks.
And it's important that we, not only for the students' protection, that we have that content filtering in place. That content filtering is required for certain grants that we apply for. And it's also required, and I have to, sign off on this when we apply for E-rate reimbursements to our telephone and data bills. And we get an average of about 40% back from the federal government because we have these servers in place. We also have a 10 megabit per second internet circuit that comes into this building, and that's where all of our servers are located for web and for email and PowerSchool and Moodle and InfoCenter and all the others. And running on these servers, we have numerous open source implementations. Moodle, for example, is an open source implementation. So is Joomla, which is what powers our website. And open source, in case you don't know exactly what that means, open source is basically free software, and we leverage that as much as we can.
Gary, I've been resisting asking a really stupid question for like 10 minutes now. If the high school is the center for the phone system, and something happens here, can the other buildings act independently?
Yeah, that's why we have backup copper lines at the buildings.
Okay.
We don't have a large number because
Right.
I'm kind of defeating the purpose, but we have 2 or 3 copper lines for backup purposes going to each building, actually tied into the Cisco routers there. And so the Cisco routers would still be able to handle the calls.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Information and Communication Technologies program, which is a state regulation for the Department of Education, requires an integrated approach for using 21st century learning tools, including digital technology and communication technology. And one of the things that this regulation requires is that in 8th grade, students develop portfolios that show artifacts from the technology work that they have done throughout their elementary education. And a lot of districts, when this regulation went into effect a few years ago, there was a lot of, I can tell you, having talked to like a lot of technology directors in some of the other districts, there was a lot of hand-wringing over like, how are we going to accomplish this? And a lot of districts went out and spent a lot of money on very specialized solutions. We had the technology in place already to easily accomplish this. We went several years ago to a technology and a infrastructure that allowed us to give all of our students individual logons on the network. And inside each one of these student network folders, we have a portfolio folder, and we web-enabled that portfolio folder. And inside that portfolio folder, in grades 1 through 8, that's where the students would save their technology artifacts. And then as part of this procedure, in the 8th grade, they would create a web page under the guidance of our technology integrator at the middle school. And this web page would contain their reflection on their use of technology and links to all these artifacts. And let me just real quickly show you one. So here's just a listing of, this happens to be, I think, freshman students here, and I'm just going to click on the very first one in line, and this is basically at random. This is her web page, and she's put a picture of herself, told a little bit about herself, and here's some of her her links to some of her artifacts, and she's got her technology reflection right on here, plus documents that you can click on and download and read. And some of these are really pretty fascinating to read. Now, I should mention that these web pages, and they are web pages, but they're on our intranet, not on the internet. That means they can be viewed anywhere within the district, but they don't go outside the district. And the reason for that is, I mean, obviously we would need all sorts of parental permission, especially putting pictures of students in, and there's really no need to do that, because the real purpose is for teachers to be able to evaluate what their students can and can't do as far as technology is concerned. For example, if a student coming here to the high school from 8th grade from Mountain View, if the teacher wants to give a PowerPoint assignment and doesn't know whether the students in her class know how to do PowerPoint yet, it would be easy for her to just like log into this web page, bring up the students, and see what their technology skills are like just by looking at the student portfolio.
Gary, do other students have access to each other's pages?
They could, but it's read-only access. Yeah, so the other students can't get into the pages and make any modifications. Only the students themselves have the ability to do that. So other students, yes, can view. Power School continues to be really, really popular with parents. From the beginning of school up until, this was actually statistics from the month of March, we've had over 130,000 logins by parents and students. Of these, 101,000 were by parents and about 30,000 were by GHS students. And there is currently over 640 external logins per day. External means outside of this building, outside of the district. So that's parents and students in the evening. Not counted in this are logins that happen during the day here by could be students, could be teachers or administrators. That's over 640 logins by parents and students need. Over 65% of our parents use this feature, and the parents love it. And students dread it because the parents now have like real-time information on the student grades and absences, fee balances, lunch balances, and that type of thing. One of the exciting things that also happened recently at the high school was our AP science students did a project with the Glenn Research Center in Ohio. And the Glenn Research Center is one of NASA's centers, and it was a microgravity experiment. Basically, the students came up with an experiment that was put together here and was shipped to Ohio and was actually dropped in their, they've got this microgravity kind of like elevator shaft. That's, you know, it's a very high-tech elevator shaft, but they actually created this experiment, and NASA ran the tests for them. And from what I understand, it really went well, and the NASA engineers were very impressed. And they got to work with the NASA engineers by using video conferencing technology that we have here in this building up in our step room. And this picture right here, you can see the background. Those are the NASA scientists at the Glenn Research Center, and this is our students here in the foreground. And it was really pretty impressive. It was pretty impressive to sit there and watch the students interact with the scientists at Glenn. Making technology work. I like to think of it as a tripod. First leg in the tripod is purchase the appropriate hardware. Second leg in the tripod is provide training to staff. And the third leg in the tripod is to support and maintain the equipment properly. And when you visualize it as a tripod, and you think of like knocking out one of the legs of the tripod falls over. And I think the same thing happens to technology if you take out any one of these legs. And which brings us to the Technology Support Index. And this index was created by the Gates Foundation and the International Society of Technology Educators. And they consider high efficiency support is when you have a computer to technician ratio less than 75 to 1. And some business, some corporations consider 50 to 1 to be the ideal number. Gates and ISTE say you're satisfactory if you've got a computer to technician ratio between 75 to 1 and 150 to 1. You're moderate if your ratio is 150 to 1 to 250 to 1. And you're low efficient if your computer to technician ratio is over 250 to 1. This year at the Goffstown School District, we're running a computer to technician ratio of 435 to 1. And that's just counting the 1,500 computers. When you count printers and network switches and routers and access points and firewalls, security cameras and now phones, our tech department, our little tech department, supports several thousand devices. And we actually have a smaller staff now than we did in 2004, when we had less than half the computers in the district. And unfortunately, the budget cuts that we're now facing mean that there are going to be further staff reductions, which is pretty scary. And it's scary to me when I think of like, when we realize that all of these computers and servers and everything are pieces of equipment that can and do fail. They will all fail at some point, given enough time. Because they're mechanical devices or electronic devices. They burn out, they break, and hard to predict what's going to go next. And so that's going to be our real challenge in the upcoming year with the budget the way that it is. Hoping that we don't have multiple points of failure at the same time, and this is going to be difficult to address. Technology plan is what we're here to discuss tonight. The current school board plan, I think, was from 2006, and it expires this year. Contains our technology, vision and philosophy, our educational goals, hardware and staffing requirements, professional development goals, our technology standards for our teachers and students, and budget recommendations. And one of the things that we talked about when we had our technology advisory committee meeting last month was, how should we look at this plan? Should we look at it in terms of the realities of the budget, or should we look at it as a plan on the way technology should be supported in order to adequately provide for student learning? And we chose to do it that way, even though we may have to modify this vision in response to the realities of the budget. So the plan was developed by a committee consisting of the superintendent, assistant superintendents, myself, school principals, curriculum coordinators, and representative teachers from regular ed and special education, and also representatives from the IT department. And I think that's my last slide, so I think we can turn on lights. And I'll try to answer any of your questions.
If you were just to look at, and let's separate it into two categories. If this is a unfair question, tell me. If you were to look at just the desktop, laptop inventory, what is if you had to come up with an average age?
Yeah, I would say the average age is somewhere around 5 years or so. So I think that we are, as far as the cycling of our equipment, we're in decent shape. And the reason we're in decent shape is our laptops are on a 4-year lease. So they are part of the replacement cycle. In fact, we replaced them in, as I mentioned, 2009 and 2010. A lot of our classroom computers are much older. In fact, the SAU office has some very old computers that are, I think, at least 7 years old at this point. And a lot of classrooms have 7 to 8-year-old computers as well. But you kind of take that and you average it with the laptops that have just recently been replaced, and I think that we're in an okay spot. And we do a lot of trickle down, might be the word for it, where we'll take computers that have been in this building and maybe they're not adequate for the tasks that we need to do for the upcoming year because of changes in the software, more advanced CAD program perhaps, and we'll get new computers for this building, take those computers out and move them to the middle school. We've done that quite a bit. And sometimes computers get moved 2 or 3 times until we finally say we give up.
Lake and they're 9 years old.
Oh, I thought they ended at the SAU.
Yeah.
That's right.
We were trying to figure out why we were having so many problems at our computers, and we're like, they're 7 years old.
We may even try to do that again. But,
The
get something a little bit newer than 7 years over there.
The second piece is same question, but apply it to sort of infrastructure, the things that support the system, and I'm talking literally technology soup to nuts.
Right.
The wireless, the phone system,
Yep.
the cameras, the whole deal.
Yep. Right now, the infrastructure is in good condition, but like anything else, switches fail, routers fail, and we have to be able to replace those devices when they do fail. And it's hard to predict when something is going to fail. And we're kind of in the mode where generally we try to get as much mileage out of everything as we possibly can.
Last piece. Do you have a way for evaluating the change in traffic on the system? Usage.
Usage as far as
Is there any way to measure the degree of usage on the system? And I don't know that there is.
Yeah, you mean in terms of sort of like we do with Power School? I can tell you, like Moodle, for example, has been on a steady decline, a steady increase in usage. We are using Moodle more and more at all school levels, elementary, all the way up, through
Let me ask the
high
question a
school.
different way. It's sort of, if you were to draw a tick every time somebody opened up a system and started using
Oh,
it,
yeah, yeah.
and record every one of
Yeah.
those, is there something that does that, that gives us a proxy so that we could understand in 2007, this is what it looked like, and in 2011, this is
Yeah.
what it looks like?
I don't think I have an exact answer to that, but
Okay.
I can tell you just from usage, we have 5 mobile labs in this building that are constantly in use. In fact, we could use another one. They are, teachers plan in advance to get them, and we work hard to keep mobile labs in particular up and running. And we work really hard to keep the fixed labs up and running too. Using technology has just become, it's really a basic skill. It's not, definitely not a pull-out program the way it used to be maybe 10 or 15 years ago. It's part of the core curriculum, and it really needs to be, because just every job out in the real world involves technology. I mean, I can't even think of a single job that you could do that you wouldn't have to touch technology, whether it's a cashier at, I had breakfast at about 7 o'clock this morning at the Executive Health Club, just in our little cafe, and they've got a computerized point of sale system there. So people there that are going in, they're using that computerized point of sale system have to get trained to use technology. An assembly line worker has to be able to do statistical process control. It's just, technology is just everywhere, and it's going to become more important as years go on. There's not going to be any going back. So,
Questions? Is there a, that's an overview, is there a plan document?
Yes, you got it
Attached.
emailed.
I do,
Yeah, you should have, everybody should have
Yeah,
gotten
it was
it.
an attachment.
Yeah.
somehow I missed it.
Wanna glance at
Is that something we have to vote on tonight?
it? No, we would ask, if not tonight, the next meeting.
Okay.
I honestly didn't have a chance to read the whole thing.
Then-
Okay, we'll
then-
put it on the next
so let's
agenda.
put that on the
That would
agenda.
be-
for
We just
the
need
next
to get it
meeting.
into the
Thank
DOE
you.
for approval.
I appreciate that, so I can have the opportunity to finish it.
I do have a question for Gary. As far as Power School goes and parent usage, you've seen that go up
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
definitely?
absolutely.
Do parents and students have different IDs to access?
Yes.
When you get to the high school.
So,
Yeah.
so you can tell parent
Yeah,
traffic from
that's
student
that's
traffic?
that's how I said this, 101,000 parent logins compared to 30,000 student logins, and it's only high school students that can
Oh,
get
okay.
their logins.
Now, are you thinking about bringing that down to the middle school?
Sure.
Because right now, the middle school, sometimes they need to log in, and the parents have to give their
Yeah.
login information.
Absolutely.
So I mean,
And
the teachers have
Really, the
started
purpose of that
requesting
is so that students can kind of check their progress as well. Take a look at, oops, do I have any assignments missing? And they'll see right there that they do. And
Yeah, absolutely.
the real power of Power School is, I think, the grades.
My kids hate it, and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You know too much now.
yeah, and
there's no
I
more
have to
lying.
say though, there have been times when I've had to email a teacher where the grades have not been updated, and my daughter had a less than appropriate grade, and I'm all over her, and she's
Yeah.
like, "But I did
But I
the
passed
work.
that in."
Yeah.
It's not missing."
By the way, it's
And the
it's
teacher
an
said, yeah, I have
interesting
it here on my
double-edged
desk, I
sword.
just haven't,
Because that does work, because students go on and go, hey, I passed that in,
Exactly.
where is it?
Yeah,
And,
Yeah.
and so there are all kinds of interesting benefits
Yeah.
there.
Mary, who updates that, the teachers or you?
Teachers do. Yeah, the teachers, I'll do it from their laptops.
They
And
do
it's,
all their attendance, all their grading
yeah,
is right
and-
there.
And it's real time. As soon as they put their grade in on the laptop, it is on the Power School server.
Yeah.
oh, I know this.
So if you think
because
about
writing
back, if you think about back when, 10 years ago, every teacher would have to fill out a little attendance slip. It would all go to the main office, who then the secretary would sit there and sift through 120 slips to find out who wasn't here, and cross-reference it to another attendance sheet, who's out, who's here, whose mother called in. Now, everything's electronic, so a teacher every period logs in, books their attendance in 10 seconds. The secretary knows exactly, because the computer cross-references it all for you, so they know exactly who's missing, who hasn't been called in sick, who might be cutting class. So it's really a great system. It's definitely efficient.
And there's a dropout when somebody doesn't get from
Yeah.
period B to period C.
We know about them. Right?
There is now.
Yeah.
Cameras and computers.
Yeah.
And believe me, if the parents don't call in for their children, they get a
They
call.
Yeah. So it makes it's a much more efficient system all around. So,
All right, we will move that forward to the next one.
absolutely.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Gary,
Thank you.
that's
And
great.
see you, Gary. We'll do what we can to keep the tripod upright.
Or right another leg.
We're gonna move over
Financial audit.
to Ray.
Financial auditor, okay. A quick overview, and we will be bringing final results to the Goffstown board at your next meeting on May 2nd. As
We're-
If you have the numbers ahead of you, we can certainly do that. I didn't bring the detail sheets along.
Oh, I haven't.
Okay, we've gotten responses from what we feel are four quality CPA firms, Angel and Company, Melanson and Heath, who are the incumbents. We had a response from Green, Drolet, and Roberts. That is a relatively new firm out of, I believe it's Hampstead, New Hampshire. And we had one respondent from Portland, Maine. And we did get pricing, which from all four, which are, I think our favorites are very beneficial when we compare them to this year's prices. What the administration is going to recommend to the board this evening would be to continue on with Melanson Heath, the incumbents. And we have pricing, can you help me
Yep,
with that,
it's,
Stacy?
they came forward with a proposal of $9,500 for all 3 years of the contract. We put it out to bid for a 3-year contract, $9,500 for the next 3 years. Our current contract with them is $8,650. So it's gone up a little bit, but they've also, I think we've had that same price for the last 3 years, so.
So that's an annual cost?
That's an
annual
annual cost, yeah.
Yep.
I have a question, Philip. I thought we had, refresh my memory if I'm not correct. I
Yes.
thought we'd had a discussion about changing them because it's good to go to a different one every
Right.
so often
We
because of the number of
did.
years that we've been using
Yeah,
Melanson
and
and Heath.
so here's where we landed. So we got the 4 bids. Melanson and Heath has been who we've used as a company, but Matt Angel has been our auditor. Matt has now left the company, so we have a different auditor. Whether you consider that, we did the other 3 bids, we advertised, we put out there, so Matt Angel, who's created his new company, has put it a bit out. He's a one-man show, which concerns us a bit. His prices are extremely competitive for Goffstown. But we're concerned about having a one-man show and the ability to do that, as well as not really, he's just starting out, so whether he's gonna make that end or not.
That's also, I mean, for whatever it's worth, if he's been doing it for 3 years, that's absolutely not a fresh set of eyes.
Right.
I mean, if he's actually been personally responsible for performing that function.
Right, exactly. So it doesn't help us
Yeah,
with the
no, I
whole
know
concept
it's-
of looking at somebody else. So we started working, when he left, we started working with a new auditor. And so we do have a fresh set of eyes looking at it. It's not the same auditors it's the same company, but not the same auditors. Robert Green and Jolie came in extremely high. And again, they're another new startup company. Runyon, Kirsten and Ouellette, again, came in, their bid was $15,000. And so they're extremely high. They're also based out of Portland, Maine, which we had some concerns over just the travel and ability to get to us and the time commitment. So given the auditors that we have, we are recommending continuing with Melanson and Heath. They've done a good job, but we do have a new auditor, a new set of auditors who are working with, so we will have a fresh face looking at it.
So we're getting the best of both worlds, a firm we're familiar with and are satisfied with,
Yep,
and a new set of eyes.
yep.
Correct.
And a fairly
And a
competitive
competitive
cost
price, right?
for 3 years, correct.
And, yeah, right. It's just Goffstown, we can't forget that.
Right.
So you're making that recommendation?
Yes.
I need to
Yeah,
ask
go ahead.
another question before. Is that same firm the one that's gonna be recommended for the SAU and other
Yes.
districts?
Yes,
Yes.
yep.
Can I get a motion, and then if there are any other
So
questions, we
moved.
got them.
I'll make this, I'll second it.
Suzanne, key second. Any other questions? Concerns? All in favor of the motion to accept Melanson and Heath's proposal? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous.
Great, thanks.
Next up is the impact fees. So as I mentioned earlier, and anybody from the facilities committee, feel free to jump in. We met and looked at we had three final architectures, companies that we were looking at, Castle Booze, CMK Architects, and PH Design.
What was the second one again?
CMK. They're out of Manchester.
Manchester.
And so when we went through the process, those were our three top bidders. Those were the three we had multiple different things that we looked at and rated them on, and they were our three top candidates. Their proposed cost to get us to a final design where we would have a number and plans to go forward with a bond were like 3 times the amount of what we anticipated, close to $500,000. Not even close to the $215,000 that we have. So what we are asking the board is consideration. We currently have an additional $162,000 in impact fees available to us. Actually, it's $162,500 available to us in impact fees that have come in since the $215,000 was approved. And the committee is asking the board for approval to use those impact fees to at least get us to that would be about $377,000, some range, to be able to at least we know that these folks are gonna have to come down. We don't have that amount of money, but we know for 215 we're not going anywhere. And so we're looking at trying to at least be able to have a reasonable dollar amount to go forward to them with, or actually we told them we were requesting to have about $300,000. So if any of them are listening tonight, they now know what we have. But the thought that they would, we would be able to be a little more able to negotiate with them to lower their number if we can go up a little bit. And so that committee is requesting. We have spoken with the town to find out how we go about getting those extra funds, and so Ray has spoken with
Brian
Rose,
Rose,
the town planner, and we would be able to get on the selectmen's agenda for their next meeting to get that through.
Right.
If the board approves that.
What was the range?
When do those funds expire?
The original $215,000 does expire next year, 2012.
Any
Yeah.
impact fees?
Well, that's
Those are the
fees.
impact fees.
Yeah.
And this new set.
They're
New
good for,
set,
that's
yeah,
gonna
that
turn
would-
it into
the new
about 5
set,
years, I
when
think
do
it
they-
is?
The 162 would expire another 3 years,
In 2016.
2016.
And are there any other projects that we would be needing impact fees for?
Good question.
Yeah.
Anything associated with growth, Jenny,
Yeah, that's
that's
what
the
we've used
intended
before.
use for those fees.
And this is a conversation I do have on your board agenda for your retreat, to have a conversation, knowing that Building 8 is away, where we want to, what is the best time to bring this forward.
Is it safe to say that this is primarily a design function as opposed to a pricing function. There may be a pricing element, but it really focuses on something that whether we use it in 2012 or in 2014, it will be no less usable.
Right. We need the plans, we need the design to, even to go forward with anything.
And the money we
On a-
have isn't going to touch.
No.
Like, and they were all
Right.
consistent, it's not like there were a few that were, it was, we weren't realistic, I don't think.
What was the range on the price, low and highest? for
The lowest was 424, the highest was about 510, although we had to get clarification and it came up much higher when we got clarification, so.
It's quite
The
a
picture
range.
got worse instead of better.
Yeah.
Any
I
other-
agree with it, it was just a question.
No, good question. Any other questions?
Yes.
Lori?
What is the likelihood that we'll be able to use it if we're able to get the funds? Like, I know we weren't expecting it to be this high. If we waited, what happens? If we got it in a different year when we had different money?
We
Well,
we run the risk of losing the original 215,000 if we don't act on it now. Come 2012, it'll be returned to the developers. And that would leave us with just the 162 number.
Do we have anything else to be able to use that 215 for right now?
I think that that was, again, something for you folks to be addressing during your retreat.
Right,
Let's see,
Yeah.
the track.
the track, but you can't use
But-
it for the
but,
track, because
yeah,
you can't
when-
use it for athletic facilities.
Exactly. I'm trying to think, is there anything else that's been on CIP that we haven't?
Well, you
that
could,
can think
That's
of?
attributable to growth.
Right,
A lot of things on
exactly.
CIP are just.
right.
Well, no.
I mean, the other side that I would say would be if you didn't go forward with a building project, portables, to pay for portables, because we're getting to that point where we're out of space. And so that would be the only other option, but I hate to say it, but that's kind of throwing money away, because you're gonna pay for a portable but not have this building project, you have no plans then to move forward with a building project, which I think at some point has got to get done, whether it's 1 year, 5 years.
I don't think portables are a good long-term
No,
solution.
And we're gonna spend the money eventually anyway.
Right.
And so, better to take the risk of having to meet that need a little bit further out, sooner than we anticipated, because we can't fund the project, than to not use the dollars for this project now, this portion of it now, to be, at least be prepared.
I'm not against it, I was
Yeah.
just trying to figure
Yeah,
out.
what else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Do we have the cart before the horse in a way, in that we're scheduled to discuss what we're gonna spend this money on the retreat, and yet you're asking for permission?
No, at the retreat is gonna be just kind of timelines of when we think we would go forward with a bond and what we're gonna do with Barnard Park and those types of things, but kind of more, this has to get done before we even go to the next phase, which is when would we look at doing this building project? Which is probably the more conversation at the retreat.
Hank?
You're gonna have to do the building project eventually. You can't do anything unless you have the plans. You got the money now, you have nothing, it's gonna, I don't see, you have a big choice except to go ahead and do it. It's almost a no-brainer.
Suzanne?
Yeah. Having attended my first committee meeting since I got back from my winter vacation, I have to tell you, I was shocked with the numbers I saw. I thought in this economy, with this poor state of construction in general, that we would get better costs, better prices. And my fear now is, if this is what is coming to us in this economy, if we delay doing this, how much more is it gonna cost us a couple of years from now?
Excellent point. Questions, concerns?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Let's say we can't get the contractors to agree to do the plan for 377,000, but we can get it for 390. Do we have a possible source for the other revenue if we had to?
But we could potentially look at unexpended funds from this year. And we would come back, we have another meeting scheduled, right after vacation, and so we'll have, all three contractors have said that they continue, knowing that we're not gonna have that kind of money, are willing to continue to have conversations with us. So, at our next meeting, that will be the next conversation, if we get this money, is what's the next step? Do we bring them in, have more further conversations, start some negotiations with all three of them, figure out where we wanna go? So, that will be the committee's next meeting.
And certainly, there's more than adequate time as a fallback to put it out to bid again. Simply not accept any of the ones that are on the table.
We did get 18 bids, though. We got 18 responses to our bid.
Okay.
These were the top three. But we
Um,
could certainly look back, but they were definitely our top. There were some that
Okay.
we wouldn't work with, but.
Right? That's a good number
Yeah.
of bids. I'm like, you know, surprised. Maybe there's room there. Is there a motion on the floor? Hank? A second. We'll give it to council.
Sold.
Who's quick? Any other questions before we vote? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, New Morning After School Program. Our contract with New Morning School is up at the end of this year. Normally, we would go out to bid for that program. We're asking the board to continue that contract for one more year. The company has been sold, and it's working out well. They're continuing what the Shapiros had set up to do, and so we'd like to continue that for one more year to give them that opportunity to grow within their own role. They are keeping prices in general the same. They, right now, their current program, if they have an early pickup, it's $9. If they have a late pickup, it's $11. The Shapiros were going to recommend, and the new folks are recommending this, is to just go to a flat $10 fee instead of the difference. It will have, what they do is they get kind of coupons that the kids, so that they don't have to buy a week and not use it. They get coupon tickets for like 5 days. And so that way it alleviates the whole, are you staying late, leaving early, how much have you paid for? It kind of evens it out. It's not much time gap. So we're recommending just a one-year contract with, continuing with the New Morning School, to give them that opportunity to get to know them a little bit more as the new provider. We bought the company, we did sign new contracts with them, so that is all set for up to the end of this year. So that's our recommendation at this time.
Seems that they kept staff.
Yes, they kept all the same staff.
Stayed on, so there's
Yep.
not- there's no change there,
Yep.
so
Yep. And my understanding is they're here, they're both in Goffstown and Dunbarton, and things have continued to be the same mission, the same goals. They seem to be doing very well.
You might understand the Shapiros are still actually involved as consultants too, right?
I don't know that. I'm sure that
Through
they're
the end
having
of this year,
conversations.
that's right.
This year?
I make a motion that we continue with New Morning School. I always agree
For 1 year, right?
for 1 year.
Boy.
I'll second that.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Unanimous?
Great, thank you. And the driver's ed program, again, we're in an interesting time right now with driver's ed, with the state funding, potentially being cut. So we've worked with, John from Mr. Ross's driving school, who's also here if you have questions. And so what we asked him to do, we're also recommending, his contract expires at the end of this year, but we are recommending an extension of 1 year. Mainly because it's an entity that we know who's willing to work with us. If we go out to bid not knowing where the state is coming in, John has given us kind of a two-tiered pricing. One would be the same cost as this year, if the state funding comes through and everything stays the same, he's not raising his price for next year. And the other is that should the, let's see.
Budget not
The
passed,
budget
yeah.
not pass, the state budget, and that the funding not come through, John has put a cost of $600, which would mean he'd actually lose about $35, but he's willing to do that to continue with the contract and help us out, not knowing really where the state is going. And so instead of going out to bid and trying to negotiate with vendors that we're not familiar with on this piece of it, again, we're asking for just another 1 year contract. to look at, just because he's willing to work with us, not knowing where the state funds are coming in at.
I'll make that motion, but I'd like to have a chance to speak to it, though, afterwards.
Do I have a second, Jenny? Please.
And if I could ask John a question. Instead of doing $600 if the state doesn't reimburse, have you thought about leaving it at $635 and doing more scholarships or financial assistance instead, or?
Well, I was hoping for a 3-year extension, I bet that's what we were originally talking about, but, yeah, I would go for more scholarships.
I'm just curious, is it gonna make that big of a difference for most of the kids, between the 600 and the 635? Rather than, but offer more scholarships or financial assistance to the parents or the families that are significantly distraught when they have to pay for this $635 bill, possibly in full now if the state doesn't support it with their $140 reimbursement.
Include an option for 2 years. Great. If you want to keep it at 635, it would be great. Because gas prices are going up right now.
Right, and my thoughts were, I'm not sure if it's fair to say, to make it 600, I think it might be nice to leave it at 635 and simply have the ability, allow you the ability to offer more scholarships. I know you do offer some currently and some assistance on some of them.
Any other questions?
I'd like to make an amendment to my motion.
Is this strictly a 1-year contract, or it is a 1 year with an option, or is it just a plain cut dry 1-year contract?
Do you want to address that? I was under the impression it was a 1 year, but
Yeah,
I think Ray may have had other conversations.
Yeah, it's a board option right now. You could do the 1-year contract and put an option clause on for 2 additional years and have the option pending upon successful negotiation of new pricing for option years 1 and 2. That way it gives you the flexibility of looking at cost refreshes dependent upon where state budgets come down. It gives the driving school a chance to determine where they need to be to make it a viable program. And if it works, fine. If it doesn't, then everybody does have the option of going out again for bid. So that's a possibility for you folks to consider.
I kind of like that idea. It's a service we're satisfied with.
Can I amend my motion then?
I have one technical question, and anybody can answer it, I simply don't know the answer to the question. Was this something that went out for bid, and are we precluded from making a change in this time based upon the bid request?
This issue did not go out to bid.
Okay.
The reason it didn't go out to bid was the uncertainty surrounding the funding for next school year and subsequent years. We wouldn't know how to negotiate with a new provider.
Okay.
And Mr. Ross was able to provide the district with alternatives in both cases.
Okay, I mean, as long as there's no technical barrier, then I don't have any problem with your amending the motion.
All right. I'd like to read my motion that we offer a 1-year contract at $635.
If the state funding doesn't come through.
Either way, that he can charge up to $635.
Hold on, wait
Yeah.
a second,
Yeah.
wait a second.
You can't do that.
It's $495 if the state contract comes through, because
Right, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, you gotta break it down. Okay, $495 if the state contract comes through, $635 if the state contract does not go through, and allow Mr. Ross, John, the opportunity to be able to provide scholarships and financial assistance as he's currently doing now. I think that $35 would help with his ability to be able to do that for the needy families of our community, and to offer a 2-year extension on the contract.
Not extension.
2-year options, thank you, 2-year options on the contract. And I'm trying to think of how we'd have to phrase being able to negotiate,
Dependent upon successful negotiation of terms and conditions and pricing.
okay, that sounds good.
Could you repeat that?
Depends
on the
upon
radio
successful
commercials, aren't you?
negotiations of
Yep.
terms, conditions, and prices.
Thank you. I don't,
Did I
I'm
get
not
it
used
right,
to having
John?
you doing that.
Okay, good.
Is that acceptable?
So, that's your motion?
That's my motion, thank you.
And who seconded it?
I think I
Okay.
Jenny has to change
And you would-
yours.
You would retract and then
yes.
second?
I second his.
Keith, repeat that motion, please.
Yeah. Can I ask the secretary to please
But-
repeat?
But only if you'll shoot at his feet while he does it. Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Jen?
so explain how the option clause works. If we're satisfied with the way the contract functions in this first year, that gives us the opportunity then to continue it.
And we would come back to the board with any increases in pricing or any, for board approval.
Would that be each year?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Any other questions?
So if he doesn't raise his price or make any changes in his contract, I would assume the administration would have the authority to extend it that additional year.
I think they still need to come back
We
to
would
the
bring
board.
it back to the board, yeah.
My hand is just
I guess I
urgent,
have a
just,
question. Now, for John, it was your idea to propose the $600, and you were gonna eat the 35. Is
Right.
this extra 35 going to afford you the ability to provide? I mean, will it have an impact on your ability to offer assistance to those who might need it? Will
Yes.
it make a significant difference?
It would,
Okay.
because gas prices aren't going up, and so the opposite way would I think. This way I could have this help.
Seeing no other questions, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. We've already done grade 7 and 8 Pearson literature. Hold on. Ginny?
I have something that I was just thinking about the other day, as I heard a complaint about Mountain View's baseball field not being anywhere near ready for the season yet. And I know we work with the Parks and Rec Parks and Rec to do our fields in lieu of them using our facilities.
Right.
And I was thinking that now they are charging people to use our fields. And is there any, I mean, that money is gonna go to the Parks and Rec and to the town budget. I was okay with it before when we were, exchanging services. But now we're exchanging services. We have a baseball field that I hope they're gonna be able to play on tomorrow, and that the officials aren't gonna say it's not safe. And they're also having money that's going into their budget and not ours. Most everyone else that charges to use our fields has to pay a fee for them. So I was just bringing that up as a,
That's a good point.
Suzanne?
yes. It's not a concern, but my take on it was, especially like programs like the basketball programs, which are indoors, and they
There's a
use
janitor.
all of our facilities for that. They're gonna be collecting fees. They're gonna supply T-shirts and balls, and we're gonna supply the venue, we're gonna supply the heat, we're gonna supply the lighting. I mean, for adult volleyball, we even supply the
Wear and
net,
tear.
the tissue and
and
water.
in my beady little brain, I was saying, well, shouldn't we get a little slice of those fees? I mean, the
It's true. I mean,
expense,
they're
the
collecting
expense is
a
gonna be ours,
revenue
'cause
on-
their coaches are mostly volunteers. The expense is
I
gonna be
recall.
ours.
Right.
You're
Now,
correct.
Does Tri-Town soccer, like, do they rent our facilities, or they pay a fee to use?
They pay a fee.
As does, remember when we
And,
had the
you know, when it
leagues
was-
in softball?
When it was
Yeah, I
no
think they
fees,
either
I
rent-
didn't
they either
care,
pay or
because
they
it was
do
kinda,
in-kind
you scratch my
donations.
back,
Yeah,
I'll
it was
scratch
kinda
yours.
What it was,
Yeah.
it was
Now-
in kind, or.
It's
I'd have to look
it's interesting, you're right,
specifically.
it sort of throws a
different
wrinkle in
curve
the
on that whole-
dynamic,
yeah.
because
It's
really
food for thought.
it's
Well-
a fee that's assessed for the use of the community's assets, and I don't think it separates between whether it's a Parks and Rec asset or a school asset.
Well,
Really
there's
doesn't
an
make
easy
any
way to
difference.
rectify that. We simply charge them a fee for using the school. That's within our purview.
Yeah, but that goes on that slippery slope that I don't
I know,
like.
I know. Maybe this is something we should ask the administration or our board chair to discuss with the selectmen or the chair of the selectmen about what they're collecting that money for, what they're exactly using it for, and is it appropriate for them to be collecting money when we're shouldering the burden of the cost or something?
And at least have maybe a little better service with our, you know, what, their in-kind part of it, maybe.
Right.
You know, again, where there is a bargain in existence, I guess my instinct is to be reluctant to disturb the bargain, but to make sure that we're getting our fair share of the bargain. So if there are lingering issues in terms of the ongoing care of the field, that's something we ought to pay attention to, Jen.
Policy KF does kind of speak to this. Item 3, fees will be consistent with any expenses to be incurred by the school district and the benefits to be derived by the user.
Right. And we've only charged those fees
Isn't that for
for
outside of
private
the community?
organizations.
Yeah.
Be careful though, if you start that, they'll
Yeah.
charge you for taking care of the fields.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm thinking,
It was just a
again,
point that I was
we're-
making, because,
I'm
you know.
listening to where Ginny started, which is, there's a bargain in place, and,
But you're gonna remind them they're not living up to it.
Yeah.
well, if that's the case, then I think maybe the way you preserve that relationship and engineer a solution is by making sure that you're getting your end of the bargain. So I will,
And I will certainly follow up why the fields aren't looking good.
what it was
Well, that's just the baseball field. I think the softball field's in pretty good shape.
Friday, the pitcher's mound where home base wasn't in, and it hadn't been great.
I'll look into
So,
it.
you know, I mean,
Softball was handled by volunteers a week ago.
Right, because wait, the Friends of Softball,
I was saying
is part of the
softball,
in-kind donations
yeah.
did that, yeah.
That's right, yeah. Yeah,
But there's
parents
not
were
a-
called in to do it that weekend.
there's no baseball group, so.
No.
See, that's why we don't.
I will follow up on that, and if the board wants to think about the other piece of it, and maybe we can bring it back for discussion if anybody
Yeah.
has other ideas or thoughts on it, contemplated for the
Because I was just thinking, there's, you know, the police officer have been put into our budget, and, you know, it's kind of, where
Well,
been
it's
cut
on
out
our,
of
it's
our
gonna
budget.
come out of next
was
year's
put in and
budget.
taken out, but, you know what I
At
mean?
this moment in time, we'll wait to see the state retirement comes in, but.
Currently, the SRO is pink slipped.
Yeah.
Suzanne.
Yeah, I attended the budget committee meeting last Wednesday, and they're really thinking ahead. They picked the dates with which they would like to have their presentations. I'm supposed to ask you guys if you like the all-day session, or if you'd rather do it, no, not if you, if the all-day session is something you're interested in doing again this year. And they picked the date of, they'd like school by November 12th, the latest.
Okay.
And they really would like it the 5th, but I didn't think that was possible, because they wanted at least a week ahead of time. So, oh, yeah, but
So they're looking to do it on
sorry,
Saturday.
I misspoke. We took the 12th away because that's the long Veterans Day weekend.
Veterans Day weekend,
So we know folks aren't gonna be around. So,
So they said we can do it the week after?
yeah, and they also asked if we could use the step room for presentations.
What?
Step room.
Up on the,
As long as nobody's using them. If it's a Saturday.
They thought it would be a much better place to have this kind of presentation than what we did last,
I would agree with that.
yeah,
It was a little hard to go between two sets of groups.
right.
So is it the 19th that they're, if it's
So
a
the town, they're
Saturday?
looking at October 22nd, and they'd like the step room for that presentation too, if they could have it.
They,
It's a
just for
nominal
the
fee,
town, they
not
just need to
somewhere.
go fill out a building usage form.
Okay.
They should know that.
Oh, selectmen should fill it out, yeah.
In terms of planning on a date, the need to do so doesn't depend upon a decision today.
Seeing as how it's 6 months away, probably not.
Okay. let's see if we firm up our date, and then, I think that after our post-retreat, we'll
Okay.
schedule that.
Okay.
Because I think, I mean, in terms of the discussions that this group needs to have, I think that makes sense, it'll give them enough time.
Very good.
Any other business that may lawfully, yes.
Has the other budget committee requests been addressed about the reports that they've asked for?
Um,
I was
Yes,
wondering.
I believe that they have fairly been responded to. What my response generally was, if there's something that the school district has that is a public document, we will more than happily make it available. If it's something that needs to be created and or manipulated and or built in a different format, my feeling is if the data already exists, it already exists. We have the right and benefit of using 70% of the SAU's assets, and we should be using those to run the district. So if we've already produced that data in a form, then producing it in some other form takes away from the district's ability to do its primary job.
Is it in such detail as the budget committee may require? Do we know? That's the wording in the RSA.
I'll consider that.
What reports are they looking for?
If all the information is there, I would say that the answer to that question would be yes. If there's some, I will certainly look and see if I can get some further definition and direction around that particular language. But we've machined a bunch of data before and produced it in different forms and in different formats. And I can't imagine that, given what's happened probably over about a 2 or 3 year period, that it hasn't already been produced or made available. And if there's something that we have that we haven't produced, we'll turn it over. It's all public.
Yeah,
So that's
and
pretty
as
easy.
I don't really know what they're looking for or what we have. I just wanna make
Right.
sure we're in the RSA.
Right?
What are they looking for?
Off the top of my head, I don't have the email in front of me.
They asked if we could be there for a Wednesday meeting. Ray and I could not be because we have Dunbarton and New Boston on Wednesday nights. So,
Well, I will tell you, the discussion around the table was, we have assistant superintendents, and they asking for anyone from your office to come and meet.
I'm not comfortable sending an assistant superintendent.
Why does it have to be a Wednesday?
Because they changed their meeting night to Wednesday.
Yeah. And it happens to be Dunbarton and New Boston nights.
Can I add just a little comment? I'm gonna have to support Stacy's decision in the fact that when you're in the preliminary development
Yeah,
of a
they're
budget,
not
I think you
anywhere
really need to be having Stacy and Ray there to do that part and discuss it. I think asking an assistant superintendent, they're not gonna be functioning on that at that time. They really come in further along in the journey on the development budget. They're focusing on their individual parts of that early on.
Well, what I think triggered this request is the vote we took at last meeting on the reductions to get us down to the default number. Because in their term, their budget, they got well below the default number and they didn't let any staff go.
Right.
And
But to.
when we got into discussion about that, I pointed out to them that there are programs, and I use the EH at Bartlett as my example, that we started this year with federal dollars that we're not gonna get next year. But we have to fund that program, or we have to send those kids out somewhere. And it'd cost us 3 times more to send them out than to keep them here in town. So the devil is, we don't have the money from the feds to run the program. We certainly don't have the money to send them out. So we've got to find the money in the budget somewhere to fund that program because it's the best use of taxpayer dollars.
If I can also add,
They're
just
really unhappy with
to
what we
remind
did.
them, the majority of positions that were not cut to get to default. They were cut to get to the 622,000 that we're potentially losing in retirement costs. That 620,000 is almost exclusively staffing. That has nothing to do with default.
Right.
To meet default, I think it was 4 paraeducators, which is nothing. I mean, that's not a huge number to me. The majority of staff that we cut, the biology teacher, the social studies teacher, all of
Tech
those
person.
positions, the tech person, the custodian, those were to meet the $622,000 we were losing in retirement funds. That's what those were, that the board said we have to cut those because if the state continues budgeting the retirement contribution for the state at 0, we have to pick up those costs. That's where the 622, that's where the majority of staffing is coming from. It had nothing to do with the default. It was to meet those costs that the district will be obligated to pay that we don't have in the budget. So 2 different pieces to the puzzle.
And when I spoke to it at the last meeting, I was very definitive on the fact that I felt it'd be inappropriate for us to fund these positions knowing we may have a shortfall of additional expenditures of about 620,000. In no time did we ever discuss this was to meet the default budget. It was simply to meet the proposed budget that the governor had put forward that it cut back on revenues to us as well as increased expenses for retirement. At no time did I speak, or I believe anybody else at this table spoke about the fact that it was being used to meet the default. It was not.
Because it would be my intent that if the governor if the budget passed with retirement costs back in there, that we would be looking to refund those positions.
Yes,
Those
that was-
positions
And,
were
and I
back.
may
That
have
was the
misspoke,
intent.
I may
Yeah.
have said,
In fairness, there was a fair amount of debate by this body over whether or not to make reductions based upon what the state may do. A decision was made that this body was risk averse, and appropriately so, and chose to say, this is what we're going to do, anticipating that this can happen. Doesn't mean it will happen. But it was a thoughtful, considered decision based upon risk. Doesn't mean we'll do it. The lesser cuts, which I think involved, was it 2 or 4?
It was 4 paraeducators.
Paraeducators. Some of those people who were in those paraeducators serve other districts, that between the time the plans were authored and the budget cuts were made, a period of more than 18 months, okay? That need doesn't exist. So nobody's asking that the budget committee be vilified for cuts that the district made. We were given a sum certain to deal with, and the way we've chosen to deal with it is to examine the needs in real time, today, and make decisions. And the school board made those decisions, the budget committee didn't make those decisions.
right.
And nor would anybody ever hold them they're 9 votes in a community of 18,000. They're just 9 people. The school district made those decisions in real time based upon where they were at that point. And nobody's suggesting that the budget committee is responsible for this governing body's decision making.
No, nobody said that.
I'm not saying anybody said that, but to the extent that there's concern over that decision, it was this board's decision.
It
based
sounds
upon the
like I
recommendation.
didn't make myself as clear as I should have. I may have used the term to get to the default when I meant to get to the to the state budget number.
Okay. Hopefully that will
It
clear some
won't,
of that.
well, so, I would anticipate it's gonna come in somewhere in between.
Wait and see.
Yeah, again, part of it is a wait and see, and clearly the Senate and the House
Yeah.
didn't seem to agree.
No,
Yeah.
that's already.
And I'm not sure where the governor stands exactly.
Exactly.
He's being quiet.
Yes, he is. So I think we've addressed that. Any other business?
I have a resignation nomination and 2 teachers. I have 1 resignation, Erin Einzig, who is currently out on leave. She had requested a year's leave of absence, was planning to come back at Mountain View, and her husband has been transferred to North Carolina, so they are moving. So she has given her resignation, so I am asking for the board to accept that resignation with regret.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Suzanne, Judy seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Or unanimous?
I have 1 co-curricular nomination that's a stipended position and 4 that are volunteers. I'm bringing forward Lee McCain, who will be the softball coach at Mountain View Middle School. And so I'm looking for, I'm bringing forward her nomination, so I'm looking for acceptance of that nomination. There's 4 volunteers that I just, they're all just notification. Josh Lewis is gonna continue as the JV boys lacrosse, as a volunteer. Brian Martin is gonna continue girls tennis as a volunteer. Andy Pishka is gonna continue spring track at Mountain View as a volunteer. And Keith Stewart is going to continue boys tennis as a volunteer at the high school.
Can we get a motion? Second? By Judy? Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
Great, and I just want to notify you of 3 student teachers that we will have in the fall, all 3 at Maple Ave. We have Amy Gamache coming, who's going to be working with Peggy Zola.
I'm not busy.
Yeah.
Well, where are they coming from? SNU
They're
or from
SNU,
St. A's?
yeah,
All SNU?
Amelia Young is going to be working with Christina Lamson, and Kelly Sawyer will be working with Denise Morris.
Is it really a graduate? I don't know. Anyway, but that's just notification.
Just
only.
notification, correct?
A silly question. Do the student teachers have a criminal check?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They
Same
go
thing
through
as
the
a
whole,
teacher.
they go through the whole process.
They do, okay.
Jen?
Just as a reflection, sitting here processing Gary's presentation, I was struck by the number that he said 65% of the usage is by parents. So I'd like to reintroduce at this time the possibility of having report cards go out via Power School as opposed to paper.
Can I, not report,
No,
progress report.
progress reports. Not report cards?
You'll save a lot more money if you eliminate the progress report.
Oh, that's true.
Not the report.
That's true.
Because we send those out 6 times a year.
That's true. So I would like to ask that the administration consider that again, where he also said that the usage of parents is escalating. You save paper cost, you save postage cost.
Can I just ask a question, just so I have clarity?
Sure.
Is it eliminate the use of or eliminate the transmission of by paper? Because I'm not sure I understood which one it was.
By paper,
Okay.
by paper.
So they keep on getting done on the same schedule that they are, but we stop sending them out
By
by killing
paper.
trees.
Right.
But we will use more time tracking all the ones that come back, that we have to then track their correct email addresses. So I wouldn't say it's a total wash.
No, I'm not.
It's gonna transfer whose time that we take up.
I think there's only a request
Yeah.
that we look at it again.
Yep, I will look at it again. I will bring it
And
up to the
and also
administrators.
ask Gary, I'm not sure if he was clear in his presentation, whether those user logins were uniques or whether they were the same 60,000 people doing it twice, to make that 100,000, whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know if those were unique logins.
Oh, you all figured out I spend my nights at home logging in.
So, because I know.
Bring the numbers up for the district.
I know some parents, like my wife, are on it all the time,
But
checking,
Here-
so.
Here's the thing, I
Still
don't
one.
believe
It
that
may
my
not be a
kids are
direct
all unique,
reflection on the
but she's
total
pushing
population.
that button like a rabbit. I
Yeah.
mean, what is it today? What is it today? What is it today?
Right.
So I was really surprised to hear that kid usage is lower than parent. I would have expected
Only the
exactly
high
the
school
opposite.
can use it.
Right, that's
I
'cause
mean,
only
a
high
lot,
schools do.
I have an
But
issue, a lot of my students will come to me and say, my parents won't give me the Power School password so I can check my grade. And I'll say, well, why not? It's not like you can change anything, you can't do anything. But the parents, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable doing that. So it's your high school kids are 30,000
Yeah, and plus,
from
I know
1,000
that
kids at the high school?
I still use my parents' login, because they changed it halfway through, like, sophomore year, to get one for students and one for parents, so I know that a lot of the parent logins are for students also.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, that may, yeah. that
So
may
I'm
be
just,
a
I'm
little
just
bit-
curious how that hashes out, because it may not be a direct reflection on our population.
But other districts near us have gone to a completely paperless system, I
But
believe.
that means, but that can't be, you can't use that as a direct reflection on the usage of our parent. So
No.
if you only have
But
20%
I'm saying
of
it's
the parents in the
possible
high
to
school
function
using it,
under that guideline.
What do you do to people that don't have
Possibly.
computers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Again,
some are not.
There's,
Agreed.
I think there's some analysis that can be done around this, so that as you consider it, you understand the implications from at a board level, what the operation looks like.
Right. I'm a big fan of doing it right the first time, because so you don't have to do it twice. So that's the whole thing. Why make a change if you're gonna end up going back anyway? Because you find that 70% of the population
Changes, Bill.
aren't getting it, so
Did
just
we,
curious.
Okay,
Do we overlook grade 7 and 8 Pearsons?
we didn't.
We
did
did that
it in the
earlier.
body of the committee.
You voted in favor of accepting it. Just so you remember, you know.
I was just sleeping at the
You
time.
made the motion.
My nap time. What time was that?
We did it during C and E
That's all I
subcommittee
have.
discussion.
Unless there's anything
I
else.
have a question, but I don't know if it would be non-public. There's a name I kind of expected today, I didn't see, so I didn't know if that would be something.
No, I don't have that yet, but you will have it.
Okay. Never mind then. Alright, I can make a motion for adjourn.
Would you like to?
I would.
Thank you. Hey, would somebody second Willie's motion? Suzanne, all in favor? Hank refuses to vote.
I'll stay here.
Hank wants to stay
Hank will
here.
abstain.
Dogfight law?
Sorry?
Excuse me? Well, I'm gonna have one, all right?
Call your insurance company.
Oh, I did, and they explained to me that they're gonna drop me probably, so.
They probably will, but they won't drop you immediately. They're